Welcome back to another episode of the All Takes No Whiffs podcast. We got another great episode lined up this week. And before we get started, make sure y'all like and subscribe the video and also hit that bell at the bottom of the screen to turn on notifications to let y'all know when we post new videos. Also, if you want, you can follow us on social media at ATNW Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever there is out there, to be honest. But this week, we have some great stuff to talk about this week. We're going to be talking about some breakout players from the MLB season and some guys who just have been solid throughout the past couple of years, to be honest. And we also are going to be recapping the Andy Ruiz Jr. versus Luis Ortiz fight. I mean, that was a banger of a fight, to be honest. And then we have two bangers of a fight this week, and we got Claressa Shields versus Savannah Marshall, and we have Mikaela Mayer versus Alycia Baumgardner. Both of these fights are going to be super good. They're on the same card, and I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah, Top Rank is coming through with an insane card this weekend. I'm looking forward to that, and let's get it. It's honestly been a hell of a season for 2022. We've got a lot of standout players, just players who've been taking the league by storm or are continuing to do so. And I know we've talked plenty about the guys that are at the top of the MVP race. Those guys this year are the cream of the crop of the players this year. But there are also some players who deserve similar recognition for what they're doing this year. I know they may not be at the top of these MVP races, but definitely at some points of the season they were. This first guy, I remember at one point people were just in awe of what he was doing with the bat, and he had his name in the MVP conversation. I remember about close to the end of the first half, and that's Yordan Alvarez. He is having an amazing season. And to be honest, based off what he was doing at that point in the first half, I feel like his numbers haven't projected completely. But I know he was down with injuries at some point, and it's a lot to ask for somebody to maintain a pace like that. Not everybody's Aaron Judge. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, Jordan definitely deserves credit. Best left-handed bat in baseball, and I don't think that's a question at this point. And the thing is that it's crazy that Houston keeps producing players of this caliber. And let's see, maybe Jordan might end up as one of the better names that they've produced in recent memory. Obviously, you got Correa and Altuve, but I feel like the potential is there. It's just a matter of seeing what happens.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite players in MLB, honestly. He just does everything right, kind of. Like Christian said, one of the best left-handed bats, not one of the best, is the best left-handed bat in all of baseball. I agree with that. And like Christian said, he was in the MVP race earlier this year. I think at the end of, I think it was either May or June, dude was batting, I think, over 400 for the entire month. And his average has kind of dipped here recently since after the All-Star break. He did have a wrist injury. He did have a collision with their shortstop earlier this year. But this dude has been nothing but consistent the past couple of years. And I mean, he's got 31 home runs. I thought this dude was going to get maybe close to 50 this year, but some injuries have held him back. And I mean, a 395 OBP. He has a 292 average. That's 100 points higher than his average.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty insane, to be honest. So Yordan Alvarez has been one of the best, most consistent hitters probably for the past 3 or 4 years.
That's what I love about him too. It's that it's consistent and all around. To be honest, we all know that what he's capable of with the pop, but he's sitting near 300. We know he could hit for average, and he hits the ball all around the field. Like it's not just he's not a pull happy guy. Uh, he'll send you 450 whether it's left center or right center. And I just really love that. I love how he uses the whole field, unlike Joey Gallo. I'm kidding.
No, Joey Gallo doing pretty good out there in LA, though. But no, you're definitely right. But moving on to another guy that has been pretty good this year. I wouldn't even say pretty good. I would say really good as of recent. Is starting pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Zach Gallen. This dude is on, I think, 41 and 2/3 innings, no runs given up streak. It's pretty insane, to be honest. I think he's literally 1 out away from breaking the Diamondbacks record. So that is really cool. And I mean, if this guy had been pitching like he was recently for the entire season, I could easily see this guy getting over 200 strikeouts this year and probably having 20 to 30 more than he does right now. Dude just doesn't give up hits either. I mean, he's third in the MLB and average against. I mean, this is just honestly one of the best pitchers in baseball that I think no one knows about because he's on a team that is just not very good.
I was just about to say that. And that's kind of the case for a couple of guys that have been out in Arizona. Honestly, that was the case for Goldschmidt for a while. I feel like that's kind of the case for Ketel Marte as well. But Zach Gallen for sure. He's got the stuff and he's nasty. It's just that he's a bright spot in a dumpster fire over there in Arizona. So I feel like this season's going to be good for him though. Like in the long term potentially because he might get that money up when he hits free agency, whenever that is.
Do you see? I mean, dude's been pitching lights out this year recently too. Do you see any potential of him being traded this offseason? Arizona, I wouldn't say they're really going through a rebuild, but like they're in that in between stage.
Yeah, and it's weird. I can't say for sure because honestly, I feel like Arizona's front office moves pretty weird. Like, I don't know what to expect with them. It seemed like they were in full rebuild mode at some point, but they went ahead and signed Madison Bumgarner when they picked him up, and I was just like, that move doesn't make too much sense to me. But I feel like it could be good if the Diamondbacks did trade him. They could, in case that say his stock drops going into next season or something like that, they could potentially get the most out of him coming off of a really good season like this. So I could see it happening. I don't know if Arizona sees it themselves.
Yeah, I was just wondering because honestly, I don't think they should trade him. I mean, if they're trying to build something, I mean, this is a young guy. Definitely someone you can build your starting rotation around of. Merrill Kelly, pretty good guy too.
Mhm.
So that's two solid pieces. So I mean, I was just kind of wondering. But moving on to a guy who was traded recently in the past couple of years, and people thought that he may dip in production, but that is just not the case at all. And St. Louis third baseman Nolan Arenado, this dude's one of the best players in all of baseball. He's top 20 in almost every single category offensively. Has won the Gold Glove at third base, I think, every single year he's been in the league, and I would not be surprised if he won it again this year because he's just that damn good. But I mean, I don't even really know what more to say about Nolan Arenado. Dude's just being overshadowed by Paul Goldschmidt, who's
Mhm.
probably going to win MVP.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm gonna be honest. This is statistically one of Arenado's best seasons offensively that I've seen. He's doing great things out in St. Louis, and that dynamic is just pretty nice. I know we're talking about Goldschmidt overshadowing him, but like them two on the corners, that's a scary lineup to face, and you don't want to pull any screamers down the line because it'll feel like MLB The Show. That shit could be 115 miles per hour off the bat, and they'll make it routine. So I like that whole dynamic, and Arenado definitely deserves more credit because even though Goldschmidt is objectively the better of the two this season, Arenado's nuts this year. I I know I didn't get too personal with Arenado for it, but I am a big believer of the Coors effect. And Alex mentioned he was insinuating it earlier. A lot of people thought that was going to be the case for him, but no. If anything, this would kind of be a standout season in Coors.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with you on that. It definitely would be. I mean, I think the most home runs he hit in cores was 42. And the past 2 seasons, he's hit, I think, over 30. And he's definitely probably going to get over 30 this season. He's at 28 right now. So, I mean, the power maybe dip a little bit, but I mean, the production is there. The average is up. This is one of the best pure hitters in all of baseball. I mean, like we were saying with Jordan Alvarez earlier, this dude can do everything. He can hit it all parts of the field and is one of the best defenders in all of baseball.
Yeah, Arenado. I know you might feel a certain way about this, Alex, but definitely a solidified top 2 to 3 third baseman in baseball. Depends on where you put him. I know you got your boy over him. I don't
Yeah,
blame
I
you.
mean, yeah, that's kind of a hard decision, honestly, because if you take defense into it, I think Arenado is probably the more complete player than Austin Riley. But I
Yeah.
mean, Austin Riley's on a different planet when it comes to hitting right now. I mean, their numbers aren't too different if you really look at them. Austin Riley has bet more home runs, and that's about it.
Yeah, man, it's just dope to see Nolan Arenado continue to be one of the best players in baseball, and I'm glad that it's continued over from Coors. But for this next guy, this pitcher has been very consistent for a few years now, and he just gets the job done. To be honest, it's nothing mind blowing what he's doing on the mound, but it's almost like they know what they're going to get out of him every time he steps up there, and that's Aaron Nola on the Philadelphia Phillies. He's got 200 strikeouts this year. I've never been too familiar with Aaron Nola as a strikeout pitcher like that. I know he's got some nasty stuff, but tied for third in the MLB. That is pretty wild. And I know the record. It might paint a different picture, but a very nice ERA, 3.35. It's not the craziest, but it's an ERA I would rock with if I was in the MLB. And the whip is nasty, 0.97. So he's definitely doing his thing this year for Philly. He's out there leading the rotation for the Phillies. Initially going into this season, I would think that it would have been Zach Wheeler, but Aaron Nola, got to give credit where it's due. That's their ace this year.
And he's probably been their ace the past few years, to be honest. I don't think there's been a better pitcher in Philly. I know their bullpen has been absolutely atrocious the past few years, so definitely can't count on any of them. So Aaron Nola, 2 complete games this year. That's something we really don't see in the MLB anymore. Sandy Alcantara is leading the MLB with 4, and he's tied with Framber Valdez with 2. So that's a really cool stat to see because I don't even think the past few years we've seen people get more than 2. So the fact that someone's got at least 4 this year is pretty cool. But to get back to Aaron Nola, I mean, this dude is just one of the most consistent pitchers, probably for the past 4 to 5 years. Like Christian said, the strikeouts really caught my eye. I never really thought of him as a strikeout guy. I thought of him as a pitch to contact, get some ground balls, get some fly balls, and I mean the whip is absolutely gross, like Christian said. So I mean, if runners are getting on, they're not getting in. The only thing I really would say I have a problem with Nola is he gives up a lot of bombs though. So
Mm.
and I can tell you that because Braves do it a lot to him.
I was about to ask real quick. I was like, do you have a problem with that? Because
No,
like,
no, I do not. The only guy I don't like in this rotation is Zach Wheeler because for some reason he always dominates us.
yeah, I'm kind of big on Zach Wheeler. Not in the sense that I'm like a fan of his. I'm gonna follow him wherever he goes, but I think his stuff is nasty. I'm gonna give him that. Same with Aaron Nola too, though. The numbers show 200 strikeouts. That's fire.
Yeah, I mean 200 is kind of wild because right now I think 4 people over 200 strikeouts. I think Garrett Cole, Corbin Burns, Carlos Rendon, and Aaron Nola are all the only 4 right now. And there's going to be a lot more guys getting to 200 this year, which is actually pretty cool because 200 strikeouts in a season is actually a pretty big milestone. So it'd be really cool to see. But now moving on to another guy that has been having a very good year. Has been leading the American League in average, really the MLB in average for most of the season. Has taken a dip over the past month, really month and a half, and that's first baseman for the Minnesota Twins, Luis Arias. And this guy is just a pure contact hitter. Doesn't really have much pop to him. You can tell only has hit 8 home runs. Is their leadoff guy, so not a lot of RBIs. So this is your prototypical leadoff hitter right here that we have seen for the history of baseball. It's not that power guy that everyone wants now, but this is just one of those guys who you can trust to get on base and who's going to score a lot of runs for you. He's not the fastest guy, but he is a smart base runner.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't recall seeing many first basemen with a stat line like this. Uh, this archetype, I am kind of a fan of like the pure contact hitter. I do think they fill out a role that's important to baseball teams. And I know modern baseball, it's taken a step back, kind of utilizing. A lot of teams like to utilize, some of their best players at the leadoff spot, like you guys with Acuna. But Arise, definitely one of those traditional contact hitters, like Alex mentioned. And the Twins, they're not having the best of seasons, like considering the best teams in baseball, but they are not too far behind in a race for their division. And for this season, Luis Ortiz has been a pretty impactful piece for them.
Yeah, and I'm really liking that he's this prototypical type of leadoff hitter that we've seen historically. And like you said, it's kind of weird to see a first baseman have stats like this because usually first basemans are out there hitting bombs and have a lower average, but it's definitely definitely a weird archetype, like you said. But moving on to another pitcher that we want to talk about who's been having a really good season, especially since he has stepped into a bigger role since they traded their closing pitcher, and that's the Baltimore Orioles closing pitcher, Felix Bautista. He is just having a solid year since he has stepped in and taken over for Jorge Lopez, who was one of the best closers in the American League before he got traded over to the Minnesota Twins. So this dude's got 12 saves and 13 opportunities, only one blown save, and he's got 80 strikeouts and 60 innings pitched. That's pretty insane for a rookie, especially for a closing pitcher too, or relief pitcher, because he hasn't been a closing pitcher all year, but he's got a 1.62 ERA. He's pitching great, and I'd like to learn a little more about this guy because he looks kind of gross.
Yeah, I feel that. And what I'm really loving about what he's producing this season is that the Orioles are in a push right now. They're trying to grab a wild card spot, and it's very possible. And this guy has been a solid factor towards this. I know that you mentioned that Jorge Lopez was having one of the best seasons in the AL for a reliever, and obviously it'd be nice to have him on your team still. But with a guy in Felix Bautista filling out the role and exceeding expectations, especially that he's 27 years old, not crazy young, but still, just pushing his prime right now. I think that could be a solid piece for Baltimore for the next few years, and we'll just have to wait and see. But as of right now, he's doing his thing. Definitely deserves some credit.
Yeah, definitely going to be a big piece in that bullpen probably for the next few years, especially if they stay competitive and contenders. I can definitely see him getting into a more prominent position. I mean, he can't really get in a more prominent role than closing pitcher, so hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully he stays good. We'll see. But moving on to another guy, our last position player that we want to talk about. This dude, I really did not know he was having that good of a season. Really wasn't that too familiar with him before I did some research on him, but it's first baseman for the Texas Rangers, Nathaniel Lowe. And before I say anything, I love the name Nathaniel. But this dude is just solid all around. Isn't the best defender, honestly. Has great average, is ninth in the MLB right now. His OPS is top 15. Doesn't look like he walks that much. His OBP is not too much higher than his average, but dude's been playing very consistent this year on a team that had a lot of high expectations. And honestly, this dude's doing better than some of the players that they signed big money for. Now, Corey Seager's really picked it up lately, but Marcus Semien, this dude is outplaying Marcus Semien without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, I'm in the same boat. I wasn't too familiar with him going into this season, but he's definitely on my radar now. Solid bat on him. Ninth in the league for average while having 23 home runs. I feel like that's pretty solid. That's usually, for example, Luis Ortiz, my boy hitting 316. Dude had 8 home runs though. So this is solid production with the bat for sure. My thing is, I would like to see before I'm convinced about Nathaniel Lowe. Say that the Rangers are in a good position, like they are making a playoff push or something like that in the next couple of seasons. I want to see how much of a factor he is because not to take any credit away from what he's doing right now, but when there's more pressure on the line, this is what I feel like would be like his make or break moment. And I'm not saying I think he's going to break. I feel like that he's got the potential to definitely improve even on these numbers, which would be huge because that'd make him a really fucking good player in this league. So Nathaniel Lowe, uh, I'm pretty sure you told me, Alex, he's in his third season now, and
Third, fourth, something like that.
yeah, so he's still relatively early in his career, and this is a good base right here to build off of.
Yeah, it is. And this last guy that we're going to be talking about, this dude is pitching lights out this year for one of the best teams in all of baseball. He's not been the most consistent guy over his entire career, but to be honest, I think he's finally put it all together and just looks absolutely dominant. And I can't believe I'm even saying that I think he's one of the best closers in all of baseball, but it's Edwin Diaz, closing pitcher for the New York Mets. This dude is absolutely disgusting. I mean, his fastball, it got up to 103 the other day, which
Yeah.
is absolutely insane. His slider is gross, and then throw in that cutter. I mean, dude is just absolutely gross right now, and I don't think anyone wants to see him in the ninth inning. And if the Mets get to the ninth inning right now, it's basically a wrap. I wouldn't have said that a couple years ago. Even last year, I wouldn't even have said that because this dude just wasn't consistent. But this year, it looks like he's put it all together.
Yeah, and all credit to Edwin Diaz. Last thing you want to hear in the ninth inning of a baseball game is those trumpets because it feels like it was the trumpets that brought it all together for him. Once he came through this season with that, it's just he's been lights out. And all right, I don't want to roast Edwin Diaz right here, but one of my favorite things about him before he's put it together this season was always pointing up at a fly ball when it was like obviously a home run. That's what I remembered Edwin Diaz for the longest. But this season, ah, I'm remembering him this season as the best closer in baseball because straight up, that's who he is. By far the best closer in New York. The Yankees don't. Yeah, I don't even know why I said that. There's not even a contender. So, yeah, best closer in baseball, not just New York, for sure this season.
Yeah, and I mean, I just really hope that he can keep it together consistently for throughout the rest of his career because this is one guy who I wouldn't say could end up being one of the best closers ever, but definitely has a chance to be in that type of conversation because this dude's stuff is electric. I mean, you don't see someone throwing 103 miles an hour every day. And I didn't even know, honestly, he got up to that high until this year. I think he added a couple miles an hour to his fastball this year or something because dude's just been absolutely electric. And I know I'm a Braves fan, but I really do like watching this guy pitch.
Honestly, the whole sequence of him coming out of the bullpen with the trumpets, with that warm up song, it's a fun watch. To be
It
honest with
gives
you,
you chills, kind of.
yeah, I like the memes with it too. I'm gonna be honest.
No, yeah, it's great, honestly. But that does it for some of the guys that we think have broke out this year, who've been consistent the past couple years, and really just some of the better players that don't really get recognition or aren't in the MVP race or Cy Young race. So I really enjoyed talking about some of these guys, and hopefully Edwin Diaz has a bad October.
Specifically against the Braves. This week has been another solid one for the world of boxing. We're coming off a solid Sunday of boxing. Not something you can say often, but you had Andy Ruiz versus Luis Ortiz. That was a pretty solid scrap. You had Andy Ruiz winning by unanimous decision, and it was rightfully so. Luis Ortiz, I would say, put up he made it an entertaining fight. I don't know if he made it the most competitive because Andy Ruiz, he was just letting off shots when he wanted to, and when he did, he was landing clean. Hurt Luis Ortiz bad a couple of times. I was thinking at a couple of instances that there could have been a stoppage potentially in the making, but Ortiz made it to the final bell. Credit to him for that, being 107 years old. That's no easy feat. This fight sort of, in a way, went how I expected. It made it to the final bell, but I'm gonna have to call myself out where it's due. I slept on Andy Ruiz. I didn't think he was gonna be able to put up a solid fight like that for the whole stretch, and it was him on the opposite. It was the opposite of what I thought. I thought Luis Ortiz was gonna put up a good show of boxing and get the decision, but no, it was Andy Ruiz who honestly did it in dominant fashion. It's not like he just boxed really well and all that. He hurt Luis Ortiz, and I don't want to say Andy Ruiz is on my radar now for top heavyweights. I know his name is in the mix, but um, my opinion on him is definitely a little higher than it was going into the fight because I I slacked on him. I'll be honest.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I slept on Andy Ruiz a little bit. He did a lot better than I thought he would. I was in the same boat as Christian. I thought Luis Ortiz would win this by a decision in all 12 rounds. He said he wanted to go for a 12-round fight because he didn't think Ruiz could make it all 12. And Ruiz did not look gassed at all, to be honest, at the end of the fight. He looked like he was in pretty good shape. And that really surprised me because I did not expect that at all. And to kind of go off what you said at the beginning, I actually think that Luis Ortiz made this a pretty competitive fight. Um, Even though that Andy Ruiz did kind of, I wouldn't really say dominate, but landed the harder punches, but Luis Ortiz ate them. He did get knocked down 3 times, which is kind of crazy how he got knocked down 3 times and the scorecards are still so close. So that's why I kind of would say that this fight was a little more competitive than I think you thought it was.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Um, my reasoning for it is because like in the moments that Andy Ruiz was exchanging, I did think he was showing signs of dominance in those, but these scorecards make sense to me because he did not throw a lot of shots. Andy Ruiz was really picking and choosing a lot of inactivity during that fight, and honestly, took one of these judges the 3 knockdowns is it's what made the difference to put it in Ruiz's favor. So yeah, I may have gone a little too far for sure, saying it was more entertaining than just competitive because Ortiz, he definitely boxed a solid fight. The game plan that you mentioned that he said, that's the right game plan in my opinion to go into a fight with Ruiz. So I'm gonna have to give him credit here, but probably an age thing. That's probably the biggest factor right here as to why he wasn't on the advantage side for this decision.
Yeah, and I think the crazy thing is that this dude still wants to freaking fight. After the fight, his post-fight interview, dude said he wants to go out and fight still. I mean, kudos to him. I mean, dude's a warrior. I mean, we've seen it throughout his entire career. Um, and he's in great shape still. And I wouldn't say I'm kinda looking forward to who he's fighting next, but, I mean, bravo to him. He's gonna be fighting still, but I don't think that he really has another shot at a title after this,
Mhm.
especially with the guys in the heavyweight division, and especially with all the news surrounding Tyson Fury and whatever he's gonna do, because we don't know, and we don't know if he's gonna come out of retirement or if he's just all talk, but I mean, this heavyweight division, don't see Luis Ortiz really advancing too far into it. So, I mean, kudos to him for taking this fight and wanting to fight more. But Andy Ruiz, Usyk, Joshua, Fury, this division doesn't run through all of them. Right now, it runs through mainly Fury and Usyk. But I'm just looking forward to seeing how this heavyweight division kind of plays out the rest of the year. I want to see some of these major fights, and I'm just really looking forward to the heavyweight division for the rest of the year and really the start of 2023.
Yeah, same. And I know I mentioned my opinion hasn't completely changed on Andy Ruiz, but his name is in the mix too. As long as things go well for Deontay Wilder's comeback fight, Andy Ruiz versus Wilder is a real possibility, and that's an interesting matchup. I have my thoughts on that already. I feel like it might be a little too early though, so let's see what happens. The heavyweight division, it's I'm not saying that the ideal things are happening, but some things that I was not expecting to happen, they might be in the mix, and I'm not upset at what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm definitely not upset with what I'm hearing either. I love big boxing matches, the biggest ones. We want to see them, the biggest names. So that's look like it's what's gonna happen, and that is exactly what is happening this upcoming weekend. We have two of the biggest names, really three, maybe even four of the biggest names in female boxing coming up this weekend, and I know this first fight, it's definitely gonna be a banger. We got Claressa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. Both of these girls, they do not like each other at all.
Mhm.
They both wanna knock each other out. Claressa Shields, don't know if that's doable for her. She only has 2 in her 12 wins, but I'm really looking forward to this matchup, and what do you think about this matchup this weekend?
Not taking gender into consideration at all. This is just one of the biggest fights in boxing in general this year. Uh, you got a woman who has a case at the greatest women's boxer of all time in Claressa Shields. She is the champion in this aspect. She's the one with the majority of the belts in her weight class, and she is a hell of a boxer. As we can see with her record, she likes to go the distance, and I feel like that's going to be part of her game plan for another fight. I, especially with Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall, she's got pop. I've seen some pretty brutal knockouts from her, and it's just I don't think I've seen those sort of knockouts against anybody anywhere close to Claressa Shields' level. So this is real interesting to me. I don't really know what to expect. I feel like I might be leaning more towards a nice boxing clinic from Claressa Shields, but that's because I'm more familiar with Claressa Shields, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would have to really be in the same boat as you for this. I'm really more familiar with Claressa Shields. Savannah Marshall, I knew has some brutal pop in those punches, got some raw power. I mean, she's 12-0 with 10 knockouts. But I really am looking forward to this matchup. Like Christian said, Claressa Shields, very good technical boxer, might be one of the best female boxers we've ever seen. And if I'm going to be real honest, this might be one of the most anticipated female fights that we have ever seen in the history of boxing. These are probably the two biggest names, maybe behind Mikaela Mayer, who we're going to talk about in the next fight. So, I mean, as you can tell, this is a great weekend for boxing. So, um, I really don't know what much more to say about this fight, to be honest. I just want to know, kind of Christian, what are you leaning towards? You seeing a knockout? Is this going to go distance?
I'm seeing a Clarissa Shields decision. I think she's gonna really, as far as I know, control the fight, and she's just gonna walk away with a 13-0 record with 2 knockouts. Same thing. Nothing against her for that. Obviously, this is boxing. Whichever route you want to go towards the victory, unless it's dirty, I'm not going to criticize. So, my last thoughts on this fight, to be honest with you, I know we're about to talk about the co-main event, which is about to be another banger. You mentioned it, and I just want to put a little more emphasis on it. One of the biggest fights in women's boxing history. I personally am anticipating this one a little more than the co-main. Nothing against the two fighters in the co-main, but I just really feel like with how personal this is between them, this is about to make it like potentially a war or a boxing clinic. I'm kind of leaning more towards the boxing clinic side.
Yeah, and I know I told you before we started recording that I thought Savannah Marshall would win this by knockout. But the more we've kind of talked about it, the more that I've kind of looked into it, I'm leaning more towards the Claressa Shields decision. I think that that's what it's probably going to end up being now. Um, it's going to go all 12 rounds, I think, now. And it's gonna be a close fight, I think. I definitely
Hmm.
don't think it's gonna be very wide margin. I would not be surprised if it's just like the Ruiz Ortiz fight, not with the knockdowns like that points wise, but it's gonna be a close fight, and I really do think Claressa Shields is gonna win this by a unanimous decision. Actually, I don't know. I may take that back. It may be a split decision, but we'll see. This is definitely going to be a banger of a fight, so it's definitely hard to pick this one. And you can definitely tell it's going to be hard to pick with all the lines and the odds that are out. They don't know who's going to win this fight.
Which is, I wouldn't want it any other way, to be honest. Like, these types of fights are really exciting because, yeah, it's possible to paint a picture with understanding how these fighters work and everything like that, but it's just, this one's a little too abstract. Honestly, we're just gonna have to wait and see until the result, because as of right now, even though I'm leaning towards one side, I'm not opposed to the possibility of Savannah Marshall getting a brutal stoppage happening. I feel like this is boxing. Anything can happen, especially when it's at a level this high. The, these are some of the best fighters in the world in their respective weight classes. So anything can happen. I'm just looking forward to seeing it. And I'm also looking forward to the co-main. I know it might have sounded like I talked down on it a little, but no, Mikaela Mayer versus Alycia Baumgardner. This fight is about to be wild. I'm pretty big on Alycia Baumgardner. I feel like she hasn't gotten a lot of coverage considering what her ability is. And then Mikaela Mayer. I'm really interested in her boxing ability. I do think she is a solid boxer, an active boxer too, which is shouldn't go unnoticed. I This is kind of in the same boat. I wouldn't say it's to the same degree as, I guess, historic, but I personally, off the top of my dome, I do not know what to expect with this fight either.
Yeah, I would kind of put this fight in the same boat as we just talked about the last one. The only reason why I think the last fight is probably going to be more historical is because of all the bad blood that's between those two girls.
Mhm.
I mean, these two fighters are really good fighters. Really, they're kind of opposites. Mikaela Mayer, she likes defense. She's very technical with it and everything. She likes to go the distance. Alycia Baumgardner's got some raw power and some quickness that really we haven't seen in a female fighter before. And it's kind of cool, to be honest, because a lot of these female fights don't end in knockouts. As we can see, 17-0 with 5 knockouts, and Claressa Shields was 12-0 with 2 knockouts. So a bunch of these really good fighters, they love to go the distance. But I mean, I think that this fight right here, I think it will end in a knockout by either person. I don't think this one will go the distance, and I'm not really sure who I'm leaning towards yet. But Christian, how do you think this one's gonna go?
I'm gonna go a round seven, no, round eight stoppage for Alycia Baumgardner. Like you mentioned, she's got solid raw power and really nice speed to complement that. And I do notice Mayer's boxing ability for sure, and I'm gonna give credit for that. It's just something a little weird with her. I feel like she really is lacking in the power department. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I just don't see the pop when she makes contact with her opponents. It almost feels like her punches are just bouncing off of them. And it's just not to say that she can't, put up a great fight and even get a stoppage on like just overwhelming Bumgarner throwing a lot of shots. I can't see her exchanging with Bumgarner and being on the winning end of that. I just feel like if she exchanges with her, she's gonna get caught and it's gonna hurt, no doubt. And I don't think she could replicate the same towards Bumgarner. I don't think she's big in power.
Yeah, I feel that, but when it comes to boxing, and I know you know this, all it takes is one punch. That's all
Mhm.
it takes.
Yeah, facts.
If she can land one good punch, it doesn't matter if it's a body shot or a head shot. I mean, just one of those can change the whole direction of a fight, and that's what I'm kind of thinking is going to happen. She's going to place her punches. She's going to pick where she wants to punch. Um, I'm not really too familiar with Alycia Baumgardner, to be honest, so I don't know how good her defense is, but that power is definitely gonna help her. But I definitely do think that this is gonna be Mikaela Mayer, and like I said a couple minutes ago, I do think that she may knock her out. It's gonna probably happen late in the fight if it's gonna happen because 'cause she'll be tired, so I'm probably gonna go with, ninth round knockout for Mikaela Mayer. I honestly, I don't really anticipate her knocking her out, but that's what my prediction is going to be.
I feel that. And to do something to mix it up real quick that we haven't done once yet. You want to put 5 on it, Alex?
Sure, I'm down.
All right,
Might as well.
All right,
We can do
shake
that.
on it. That.
No, I'm all for it. I mean, I think this is the first time we've picked against each other, so this will be interesting.
Oh yeah, I don't. I can see Mayer, coming out with the victory. It's just. I'll be honest. I do have a little bit of bias playing towards Alycia Baumgardner. I've seen her past fight or two, and I was really impressed. I really like how. I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing Mayer with this, since I made the point about her lacking power. I really love how Alycia Baumgardner's power looks. The punches are crisp, and there's thuds. Like it's almost like. I don't want to say it sounds like better Biev, but like when you're comparing her to her contemporaries, it just sounds different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this is gonna be another great fight. It's a great freaking card, to be honest. I mean, the fights underneath it, they're all some people working their way up. A lot of people at 1-0. So it'll be a pretty good undercard too. But the co-main event, the main event, that's what I'm looking forward to, and I cannot wait for these Saturday night. Now, these fights are happening over in the UK, so they are happening during the day over here in America. So be ready about, I would say, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Eastern time for the co-main event and main events to start. So don't think it's going to be a late night. It's going to be in the day.
Good stuff on that heads up, because that wasn't even on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about it until I looked up the fights earlier. So just wanted to let everyone know, because don't want y'all to miss these fights, because these two are going to be some absolute bangers this weekend, and I'll definitely be tuning into both of them.
Yeah, same. Honestly, shout out Top Rank for putting together this card. An insane card from them.
So that does it for another episode of the All It Takes No Whiffs podcast. We had another great episode this week talking about some breakout players in the MLB this year, and guys just keep doing what they've been doing the past few years. Also, it was great recapping the Andy Ruiz fight and previewing these two banger fights that we have going on this weekend. But before we get out of here, make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications to know when we post new videos. And also, if you want, y'all can follow us anywhere on any social media at ATNW Podcast. And then you can also follow mine at Andy2215.
And you can also find my Twitter and Instagram at Christian_S52. Another great episode this week. This card this weekend is about to be crazy. I'm looking forward to recapping it next week.
Peace.
Peace.